Linen became popular because of the Venetian painters such as Titian, Tintoretto, and Giorgione, who lived into the latter 1400s to the mid 1500s. Linen was once more expensive than prepared board. Venice experienced a surplus of linen due to the plague. Linen was piling up on the docks of Venice because there were so many deaths from the plague. Linen now became an affordable alternative to panels and was much lighter than wood, which made large paintings possible. American cotton, timber, and synthetic industry waged war on linen. With the efforts of Andrew Carnegie, William Randolph Hearst, Lamont DuPont, Harry Jacob Anslinger, and John D. Rockefeller. Linen is part of the hemp family of plants. Hemp was easy to produce, took half the water to grow, and didn't need chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Its production far exceeds that of cotton. This well-established industry could not be controlled by corporate giants. And let me be specific, not all hemp is marijuana. Marijuana is actually a small portion of the hemp family. There are many varieties of hemp that have a variety of uses, from flax oil, vitamins, fabric production, and more. Hemp is superior in strength to cotton and competed with the cotton growers. The petrochemical industry was competing with hemp for synthetic fabrics. The cotton industry could not compete with the value and durability of linen. The new petrochemical industry was replacing natural herbal remedies, oils, and tinctures with newly invented and patented pharmaceuticals, synthetic fabrics, and lubricants. The corporate giants realized they had to change people's minds through a long propaganda media campaign against hemp. They created a misrepresentation campaign of hemp by creating an association with hemp and marijuana through such films as Reefer Madness, including the movie Marijuana, Assassin of Youth, and Devil's Harvest. The Marijuana Tax Act was passed in 1937, outlining the production of hemp in the USA. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about linen. Linen, as opposed to cotton duct, is far superior in strength. It's 60%. Cotton is 60% more absorbent than linen. That way, humidity affects it much greater. Linen has a nice organic quality to it. Raw silk has almost the same appearance as linen, but you can roll it up tighter. Some of the Russian artists like raw silk, like Leon Gaspar. Now, the lighter the linen, the more you have to watch out for. You hold it up to the light, you don't want to see any air holes. Those air holes come through, and you've got to fill all of that. Roman linen, the best canvas, a fabric of varying thickness and very even structure, both warp and woof, of which are composed several threads. The trade offers types especially suitable for sketching as well as heavy grades of extraordinary strength. It is obtainable in 3 qualities: heavy, medium, and fine. Gobelin linen, a very closely woven fabric of flax with especially heavy threads for the woof. Because the conspicuousness of these threads, they must run horizontally when the canvas is mounted for the painting. Half linen, Irish linen, is made with a cotton woof and is unsuitable for artist canvas because of its uneven strength and lack of resistance to tearing. Sackcloth or shoddy are coarse, inferior fabrics of jute, hemp, or leftovers of flax. Ticking, twill are very firm fabrics made of linen or flax, but sometimes also half linen. Cambric linen, handkerchief linen, cretonne, and shirting are very fine, uniform fabrics which, in the thicker and heavier grades, are suitable for small canvases and pencil work. There are works by Durer on cambric. Sailcloth is a strong, firm fabric woven of hemp, flax, or cotton, which makes an excellent canvas for painting purposes. Domestic hand-woven linen, peasant linen, so-called Swiss linen, bleached, or their natural color, are firm fabrics with irregular threads, which however often give them a charming texture. This is an example of Chinese linen, pre-primed acrylic linen. It's cheap, it's worthless. You can see the white pouring through from the linseed oil, the paint, that will rot the linen. You do not want the linseed oil in the paint to come in contact with the linen. That's why we have to size it and create a barrier and then create a ground. Here's an example of a fine portrait linen. I would say this feels about like it's about 9 or 10 ounce linen. Again, you'll never be able to see through this portrait linen. Now, in selecting your linens, it's a good idea to get a sample booklet. If they still make those, I'm sure that they do. I'm not going to take the time, but get a sample booklet to where you know what you're really getting. A lot of the Russian artists like the heavy burlap. I don't know why, but you can see that in a lot of their, I guess it forces them to use lots of paint to paint thickly. Now this is a very, very high quality linen. I remember ordering it years ago for doing portraits. And it's important to know the difference between the warp and the weft, warp and the woof. This is the selvage. That means it's at the end of the rolls. So the warp runs parallel to the roll, the direction of the roll. The weft runs counter to the warp. So here's the selvage, that would be the ends. So the weft runs this way and the warp runs that way. If the linen is going to fail in weakness, it will fail along the lines of the weft. Irish linen, which is really cheap linen, instead of using linen, they'll use linen as the warp and cotton as the weft. And that linen tears very easily. Is far superior, or was far superior in the days of the square riggers. That's what they made the sails out of, was linen. So they do much better in the damp weather. It's just a beautiful material to paint on, especially when you see the dry brush strokes going through. It's wonderful to see the texture of the linen. The bad news. Many of our favorite art supply stores have succumbed to the pressures of the online shopper. While I miss the service, I don't miss the high prices of brick-and-mortar stores. Moreover, suppliers like Dick Blick have merged with Utrecht, and that is the good news. I have always counted on Utrecht brand as being high quality and affordable. Dick Blick now has a massive inventory of Belgian linens. Raw silk can be as varied in texture as linen. Muslin, thinner and less durable than linen, but does have some heavier weights. It is better for the use in miniatures. Basswood is among the most stable woods used by high-end frame makers and gilders. I would recommend basswood over masonite for your high-end archival work. You can buy this wood from specialty wood suppliers. Some art supply stores have ready-made panels. Masonite boards have been common among painters as a board. Masonite is not prone to warping because it's a composite material. Tempered masonite is the preferred masonite because it's much stronger than standard masonite. Natural versus synthetics. While it is true that synthetic materials have far superior quality and stability against moisture, that is their problem too. This not only applies to linen, but also to canvas sizing as well. Please take into account the properties of hide glue as opposed to synthetic glues. You want the sizing to be water soluble. Hide glues have provided great stability and a proven track record for 600 years. Now let's examine conservation and restoration of paintings. To release the painting from the canvas with hide glue, the painting is soaked in a bath of water and mild detergent. That is all that's needed. The painting can thus be remounted on a fresh liner with an iron and beeswax. To be sure, most paintings are just cleaned, repainted, cut at the edges of the stretchers, and glued to the new canvas. The process of releasing a painting with water cannot be done with synthetic materials such as polyester fabrics and plastics. The process of release would have to be some form of severe chemical bath. It is my recommendation that a natural linen, properly sized, and the appropriate ground applied to the linen will prove to give you a far superior result. There is a contention in restoration and conservation circles that is arrived at through the cleaning of paintings that the McGilt butter or the Maroger medium was never actually used by Rubens, Van Dyck, and Velázquez. The argument is that if you mix a varnish with the paint, that you couldn't clean the painting with solvents. The solvents would attack the paint. This, of course, comes from the standpoint of chemists. It must be noted that Maroger did account for modern enamel paints that use alkyds and synthetic polymer resins. These resins, used for modern household paints, give them gloss and semi-gloss qualities. Here underlies the great contention with people like Ralph Mayer and Gustav Burger. These people come at restoration purely as chemists. They do not rely on the ancient manuscripts. In fact, if a manuscript is mentioned, it is usually done so as a disparagement. Maroger and Durner rely heavily on ancient manuscripts, such as Demern and Pacheco. The modern chemists simply have no concern for the descriptive qualities of the medium, that it was jelly-like or that you could slice it like butter. Theodore Demern was a doctor, or better yet, a chemist of his time. He was Swiss-born French, lived in England, and knighted. Demern compiled the so-called Demern manuscript between 1620 and 1646 based on conversations with painters. The manuscript includes contributions from Rubens, Van Dyck, Mittens, Paul van Sommer, and Cornelius Johnson. Francisco Pacheco was also known as the Vasari of Seville. He wrote a treatise on painting, Arte de la Pintura, and father-in-law to Diego Velázquez. He taught art, and his school emphasized the academically correct representation of religious subjects, not least because he was the official censor of Seville's Inquisition. To be sure, the Italian painters did not use the resins in their paint. They liked the broad, flat paintings. Two paintings that Pacheco oversaw was the Immaculate Conception and the Glory of St. Dominic by Tiepolo. Pacheco did meet with Rubens while living in Spain. There is a description of Rubens' buttery medium. He described the Italians' way of making black oil with litharge as a seccative. Velázquez used his own malbutter recipe, substituting the lead with verdigris or copper. It's the seccative quality of the lead along with the combination of the varnish included that gives it this buttery light texture. So he says you can slice it like butter. Conclusion. Rubens lived in Italy 9 years and Spain for 9 months. While in Spain, he was befriended by Velázquez and his father-in-law Pacheco. Rubens was painting the royal family of Spain. Among the many manuscripts that Maroger referenced was the treatise on painting, the Arte de la Pintura by Pacheco, and his personal writings, which mentioned Rubens adding various amounts and types of resins to his black oil. And let's not forget the Demern manuscript.